Cheers.
Cheers.
My palm.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I know I look a little bit like Jesus this morning. I hate to say it, but it's cold here in Arizona. It's like 55 degrees outside.
Dang.
Speaking of it, who's got their mugs ready? Here's my mug today. It's a tough world. Stay prayed up. Cheers to you guys.
That. Toast the roast, baby.
There we go. All right, I'm going to mute you guys for a second as I talk, and then I'm going to invite you on. So yesterday, Liz Merritt and I had the privilege of going to World Headquarters. And Liz, you can unmute yourself now because I want your input on this.
Okay.
But we had the pleasure of going to World Headquarters, and what an amazing place. Rod Hairston was there doing the first ever training at Headquarters. So this training was for us. They have a special training room, which is huge, and it's top notch, the whole thing. It's 3 stories. It's on the main highway, and it's just like this huge beacon, like you can't miss it. And Rod made a good point. He goes, do you think the Cougars would invest in this? I mean, this is a place that's going to be here 200 years from now, and they'll be talking about this first meeting, all this thing. So Liz, just give me like 30 seconds of your first impression.
The building is magnificent. It is, like David said, you can see it from the freeway, and it's a beacon out in the desert. It was farm fields at one point because it's out in Gilbert, but it is massive. It's the most beautiful corporate offices I think I've ever seen, and I've seen quite a few. And it is top notch. I mean, everything from the call center to the executive offices at the top, everything is pristine. It is perfect. I've never seen so much security. I don't know, Dave, did you notice all the security there?
There was.
Yeah, a lot of security. But everybody is super happy. I worked with a woman who is the benefits director there now. Worked with her in a past life, and she expressed, I said, how do you like working here? Because I haven't heard it from that perspective, right? And she says, this is the most amazing corporate environment I've ever worked in my life. And let me give you an example. She said, and I'm taking more than 30 seconds, sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
And she said, she works in benefits, right? And the world we come from, and probably some of you have come from, is all about saving money. So she sat down in a meeting, she told me, and was talking to the executives about, well, we can save money in our benefits plan here, here, and here, and if we just compress the plan a little. And everyone in the meeting looked at her like she had 3 heads, she said. And they said, what? We want to make the benefits plan better for our employees, not cut back. We care about these people. And that sentiment was such a shock to her, coming from a normal corporate environment, that she was just blown away. So, I mean, that whole environment, that whole feeling just resonates throughout the entire building. You can tell people are happy working here. Awesome.
And what did they keep saying? They kept saying, this is your building. This is for you. This is for there were so many places. Even when we went on the tour, the guy goes, look, all these like little meeting rooms, they have a lot of lounges. He goes, there's a reason, because we want you guys to come here. We want you to feel like this is your home. We want you to bring prospects. We want you to bring the people on your team. When you come to visit Arizona, come by and see it. So it really is about you guys. And then, so Rod Hairston was one of the master trainers. He got this book. Now my daughter put my sticker on it, my little hello, but it's Rod Hairston, Are You Up for the Challenge? And so we are here. This is Isolation. I invited some members of Ryan's group, Ryan and Heidi Engelbert's group. So if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. We do this, what's called Waking Up with Intention, every Tuesday and Friday morning, because we feel, at least if you do it 2 days a week and you wake up with intention. So many of these calls occur at nighttime. But what happens if we could wake up with intention in a morning time when we're all getting ready to do our things, especially why we do it on a Friday, because the weekend is so crucial. In Isagenix, I know a lot of you guys have the 9 to 5s or you work another job, but in Isagenix, there is no schedule. We don't punch a clock. There is no 9 to 5. So really 7 days is 7 days. If it's Sunday night at 10 o'clock and we're enrolling somebody, we don't really look at that as, geez, I got to go to work right now. I'm enrolling somebody at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night, or I'm coaching somebody at Friday evening. So certainly waking up today on a Friday morning, I want to wake you up and I want to inspire you guys. So I'm going to have a discussion with you And if you talk, please unmute yourself. And then when you're done, mute yourself again, because these discussions and this morning intention is better when you're involved. So one of the main points that I got, and Liz is going to bring some on as well yesterday, is Rod says, everybody wants certainty. And this is what holds so many people back, right? Certainty. Let's look at it. How can we define that? Like in your workout, if you go to the gym today, chances are you're going to do what you're comfortable with. You're going to go to the machine you know. You're not going to say, hey, I'm going to ask this person if I can just join in their workout, because there's no certainty in that. And as humans, it's our nature and human nature to crave stuff that we feel comfortable with. If I told you all to hold up your coffee mugs like this and just let them go, how many people would let them go? Nobody. Because we're certain if we have this, it's not going to break. If we let it go on the floor, we don't know. Anything could happen. So he said this, when we can deal with uncertainty, that's when we have the ability to really change and grow. And that's what this is all about. In other words, the quality of your life is in direct proportion to the amount of uncertainty that you can deal with. Now, how many people here feel like they're very good at dealing with uncertainty in their life? How many people feel uncomfortable dealing with uncertainty? Let's get your hands up. Yes. But this is the basis and the genesis of growth, any type of growth. That's why when we go to events, that's why when we meet on Zoom calls like this and we are together, we have the ability to say, okay, I'm going to be a little bit more uncertain. If we're doing a role play, typically I would like to just sit here and watch you guys and drink my cup of coffee and not say anything. But I'm going to pull you out of your comfort zone, okay? So we talked about that. And then Rod said, in order to get the things you want, you have to be able to let go of other things in your life. Think about that. That could be someone holding you back. That could be the little voice inside your own head. That could be your family, your friends telling you you're crazy for pursuing some things. That could be a little voice inside your head that says you're never going to be 10, 15 pounds lighter because this is who you are. This is your identity. So he said a great analogy, and I want you to remember this. He went to Porsche racing school. And in Porsche racing school, they have these souped up Porsches and they have this track. And what happens is you have a professional driver that is with you. And he says, you're getting going and they're telling you to, downshift and then upshift and you're going like 90, then 100. And then all of a sudden the guy will press a button and it'll bring one of the wheels off of the floor and the car will immediately go into a spin. Now this is like a professional driving school and you start to panic. And he says, what happens when you start to panic in a race car? What do you look for? Liz, what does he look for when you start to panic?
You look for the wall.
You look for the wall. And Liz, what happens when you look for the wall?
You crash into the wall.
You crash into the wall. So do you see the metaphor? When you guys are in life and you're doing things, what you look for, we've heard this before, what you focus on expands. What you focus on becomes reality. So he was in this car and he starts to spin and the instructor, right, pushes his head up against the window. So he can't look and see the wall. And he's like, what are you doing? Why aren't we slowing down? Why are you letting me look? And next thing you know, what happens? He sees open space and he's slowing down and he's driving straight again. And this instructor says, I did that because if you see the wall, your mind's going to know you go for the wall because that's what you're focusing on. Don't hit the wall. Don't hit the wall. Don't hit the wall. What happens? Bam. You hit the wall. Judy, go ahead.
That reminds me of learning how to ride a motorcycle because Waylon is a great teacher and he taught me how to ride. And when you drive a car, you're protected by your windshield. You have four wheels and you literally don't have to look past your hood, but you cannot ride a motorcycle like that. Like you literally have to look further than you would in a car because if you only look right in front of your bike, that's where you're going. So like when you come up to curbs and stuff, if you can get stuck staring at something and that's where you're going to go if you're staring at it. So when I was learning how to ride in a parking lot, trying to go around, like I need to go this way, but like I'm going towards the curb and it's like, okay, I need to turn my head and look where I want to go. And it's amazing because then the bike will go where you're looking. But if you keep staring at that curb, you're going to hit the curb.
Exactly.
So it's very much very similar to how you have to ride a motorcycle.
Great analogy. Thank you for that. And, as we look at to our relationships, okay? So let's think about this. Who has ever had a pattern in their relationships where they end up being with somebody who's kind of the same person? And like, man, I just, I wanted to find this person, but I didn't find it, and I end up with the same person. So Rod's talking about this, and some lady came up to him after the conference, and she was pissed. She's like, this stuff doesn't work. She's like, this and that. And he's talking to her about relationships. He goes, well, tell me about what you want in a relationship. She goes, I know exactly what I want in a relationship. He goes, well, tell me. She goes, I know exactly what I want. I know what you're trying to do, and I know exactly what I want when I'm looking for a man. He goes, well, then tell me, what is it exactly that you want? She goes, I don't want a man that is abusive. I don't want a man that doesn't respect me. I don't want a man that isn't going to take me out and do things with me. I don't want a man that doesn't respect my values and all this stuff. He goes, do you see what you're saying? You're saying all the things that you don't want. So that's why you keep attracting this type of person in your life, because you're not focusing on the things that you want. You're focusing on the wall instead of the things that you want. Can anybody relate to that in a personal relationship? Go ahead. Who is that there? Heather Messenger. Tell me about it. I know you got your kids there. Unmute it. What does that mean to you?
Hey.
Hey.
Mine's not so a personal relationship as far as it is my business and personal growth as well. One of Angelique's calls, I was talking about the 2 words I am, how they're the most powerful words. When I sit there and I follow those words with I am not worthy, I am not capable, and then just thoughts of like, who am I to do this, who am I to do that, and thinking, I'm not going to get enrollments, I'm not going to get builders, like that's what you attract. But the second I snap out of it and shift my mind, that's when movement starts happening. And then, like even with potty training this little girl, mindset is, oh my God, she's not catching on, this is never going to happen. It didn't happen, but
wow.
As, like, she can do this, she's doing it. Huh.
Yeah. What great examples. So we have, look at how it bleeds into our life. So Heather's talking about potty training. We have Judy was talking about, a motorcycle. So you see all these things, they're all interchangeable. It's all mindset. It's not isogenics. It's not weightlifting. It's your life. Liz, tell us, I know you have great notes. Tell us, because what Heather just mentioned there about what you say, I am, I will, and you're self-taught. Remember that sequence we went through? How does it start?
Right. Let's see. Well, what we got into was that what Heather was talking about is just is creating this identity, right? So getting past these obstacles, getting past the negatives, getting past your unconscious mind telling you, no, this is not the way we do this. Because you're pre-programmed, you're pre-patterned in your life and in your being to think a certain way just because of the way you were raised or whatever. But it's about getting past that obstacle and allowing your imagination to kick in, allowing your desire and your imagination to pair up together to create a vision and a goal for what you want your life to look like. And he said something that really resonated with me. And he said, the strongest force in human nature is to stay consistent with your identity with yourself. And in order to create that new identity, you're going to have to go through some uncomfortable changes. And that was like kind of a huge theme of the day yesterday, I thought. It's like he says, life's not what you get, life's what you become, right? You've got 86,400 seconds in every day to make it what you want it to be and what you're going to become. But it's not what you get. It's not an entitlement situation.
Exactly. So you guys resonate with that? So Angelique likes to use this word, and I don't think she came up with it, but I think of someone in her training, but it's called your emotional home. And I've talked to some of you guys about your emotional home before. We all have one. I have one. Everybody has one. The best example I give you is my cousin. My cousin has this emotional home where she's 50 years old, but she still relies on her parents to make decisions for buying a car, for how to raise her kids, for what job to take. She calls them when she has problems at job. Her emotional home is with her family and her parents, because let's put it this way. Look, I mean, so much of how we were raised has everything to do with how we act. And so many people you'll hear say, well, I was raised in a single family home, or I was raised without parents, or parents who didn't love me. And that could be detrimental. But think about the other opposite. Think about parents who loved you so much that they did everything for you, and they coddled you, and they took away every time you were scared in life, they took away that ability. And they said, you know, we're going through that with our daughter right now, who's 4. The other night, she didn't want us to comb her hair because she was scared of the tangles. And man, she made a huge, huge deal about it. You know, so if you let somebody's emotional home always go back to this place where they're coddled, then that's where they feel comfortable. And sometimes what happens is they self-sabotage things because they know they're always going to get that love from their parents. If my cousin calls up her family, her mom and dad, and says, I'm having problems at work, like, don't worry, it's not you. Those terrible people at work, they just don't know you. Or if she calls them up and says, I haven't been able to lose this weight, and they said, don't worry, it's not you. It's the fact that you're trying, you have bad genes, and you know what? You have a tough life right now. It's very hard for you to exercise, but you're trying. So what they're doing is they're creating this emotional home. They're creating this place where she can continue to go back to and never break out. And that's why so many of our conversations, we have to talk real, you know? Rod was telling, guys, this story is going to crack you up. And it's kind of gross, but it's for real. So he gets paid. He's a Tony Robbins disciple. And he gets paid by billionaires. They'll fly him in on a private jet for 20 minutes to come in and, like, they say, I got this huge problem. You got to come in. And sometimes these billionaires will ask him to come into their company and do a program. So Rod's telling this story. Billionaire guy goes, come to my company. I'm flying you in. He comes in. Rod comes in his team of 4 or 5 people come down the hallway, and they go into this huge meeting room. There's this big chair with 2 chairs right beside it. And here comes this guy all dressed up, and he's got these 2 assistants, and they're writing things down, and he's talking to him, and he sits in the chair, and he goes, all right, Rod, you have 15 minutes to impress me, and if you do that, I'm going to make you a very wealthy man. Go. So Rod's like, okay, and he grabs the podium. He's looking right at him. He's talking to the guy, and Rod goes, 5 minutes into my talk, he goes, you know, sometimes when you're talking, you do like a little white by or something like this. He goes, no. He goes, this guy's going full finger up into the nose, digging, and I can't believe it. And I'm looking at my team going, is this really happening? And then he's rolling it in his hand. Now, this is gross, and we're all laughing. It's funny. And he goes, he kept doing it and doing it and doing it. So at the break, my team's like, Rod, just ignore it. I know it's freaking you out, but this is our big opportunity. This guy's going to make us a lot of money. They keep doing it, and the guy kept repeating this action. So later on, the guy talks to Rod. He says, we're not going to be able to do this. We can't connect. He goes, I'm not going to hire you. And he goes, I think I ought to tell you why. You deserve to know. And Rod's like, go ahead, bro. Tell me. He goes, well, my dad told me when I was a young man to never do business with somebody who can't keep eye contact with me and look me in the eye. And Rod's like, okay, well, let me tell you what my dad told me. Never to do business for anyone who could sit there and pick their nose in front of you and roll it. And the guy goes, was I doing that? And Rod's like, you don't know that? And the guy's like, no. He goes, I was giving a speech in college, and my friend said it's one of the best speeches he had ever heard, but he goes, you were picking your nose the whole time. And so what this was is it's a story. It's about a pattern interrupt. So he ended up hiring Rod, and Rod's talking to him, doing these things, and the guy's picking his nose. And every time he did, Rod goes, I punched him in the arm and the shoulder as hard as I possibly could. I mean, as hard as I could. And the guy's like, what are you doing that for? He goes, you don't even know you're doing something. Your unconscious mind is in this habit for whatever reason it created. You don't even see yourself in these patterns. So we talk about that pattern interrupt. So every time he did it, he punched him in the arm. Now, I don't know the validity of the story. I mean, it's hard to believe. It could happen, and I don't know if he was embellishing it for a purpose. But when we think about us, how do we relate that in our lives? What's holding us back? What is our unconscious mind doing every day? Are we self-sabotaging? Are we getting into the same habits and patterns? I don't care if it's with your business or with your workout or as simple as writing your nails or something like that. Your unconscious mind develops pattern and an emotional home that you go back to. Now, you know, there's a couple people on this call that might be in their early 20s, okay? So maybe your patterns haven't developed, but if you're in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, guys, what's happening is we have things that we've done all of our lives. So it's so hard to break a pattern. And what Rod said is you start off with, I should, right? Your mind says, I should do this, or I might do this, or I would do that. But that's not very empowering. And then you go to this thing where I'll try to do this, or I could do this, or I may do this. Still middle of the road. But the final thing is, I can do this. I will do this. And the biggest one is I must do this. And then finally, I am. So when we talk about I am, this is going back to your identities. Everybody here has their own personality, their own identity that you're trying to evolve, that you're trying to make better. Regardless of where you go right now with Isagenix and what you do, your personality, your identity, your value as a human being is being shaped every day. It's being shaped by the forces around you, but more importantly, we want it to be shaped by the person within you. So that's why when we talk about self-development and reading things every day, going to maybe a seminar of self-development, picking up a book and reading the pages and highlighting it, but better yet, trying to enact that in every day. Because how many of you guys go through a book and you just say, I read it, and it doesn't become part of your habits because you don't go back and say, I need to practice it. If I see something on a page that's important and it resonates with me, but I don't go back and look at it and practice it, what good is it, right? And these are things that you carry with you, with your family, with your relationships with your friends, with your jobs, with your relationships with your children and your parents and your brothers and sisters on a daily basis. So before I open it up, the last thing I want to say is Rod talked about your attitude. What attitude are you in most of the time? And this is something I really want you guys to start talking about. Think about what attitude are you in most of the time? And this could go back to an emotional home because you've met that person who's just a constant pain in the ass. And you're like, does this person, every time I see them, they're just a prick. Is that their life? Why would they act this way all the time? And then just on the opposite spectrum, you meet people who you just love being around them. And you're like, man, if you could be my friend and just go with me everywhere I go, my life would be so much better because I want to be more like you. I want to emulate the way you tackle life. So this is their attitude. And he said, here's the most important thing is, how quickly are you able to rebound when something bad happens or when your attitude goes into the crapper? So think about this. Those of you that are married or have a really good personal relationship with a significant other, and crap happens. You get into a fight. You know, how about you're getting ready to go out on a Friday night and you finally got a sitter for the kids and you're getting ready to go out. It's been months and you got a date with your wife and all of a sudden you guys argue about something like her taking too long to get ready or what restaurant you're going to go to. And then all of a sudden your attitude sucks and you're both sitting there going, I can't believe it. We finally get a time for ourselves. And then look what happens. We're arguing. How quickly are you able to rebound and snap out of that? Let's look at Isagenix. You call somebody up and they get on the product and they've had it for a week and they call you up and they say, hey, I'm sending it back. All of a sudden you're like, son of a bitch. This sucks. I worked so hard to get that person on and they didn't give it a chance and your attitude sucks and your shoulders come forward. And Rod talks about this. Remember guys, every time if you break any bone in your body, what happens? Your body immediately starts to regenerate. Okay, if you broke your arm in half and you didn't set it, would your bones still start to regenerate? Yeah, that's why they set it, so it regenerates in the right spot. Okay, there's only one thing in your body that doesn't regenerate, and that's your spine. When you sever your spine, it's done. They can't figure out why it won't regenerate like everything else, like your nails, your hair, your bones, your skin, right? Everything else heals, but your spine doesn't. So when he told us that, I thought about people's before and after pictures. What do we see in the before pictures? Your neck, right? If you broke your neck wouldn't heal. So when you're in a before picture, people's heads down, their shoulders are down, their spines curved, right? Because they're not confident. And their after pictures, all of a sudden their spines erect, their shoulders back, their neck is strong. So you see what happens is your physiology has so much to do with your brain and so much to do with where you are in life. So your ability to take a situation that's negative and snap out of it and do a pattern interrupt, right? In your mindset. So the final thing we did yesterday is we broke boards. And there was a lady, she was 70 years old, and right from the get-go, she was looking around like, I can't do this. Just absolutely no confidence. And we got like 3/4 through the exercise, and she was one of the last ones, and she came up and she pointed at her wrist, and she goes, I have arthritis, and you could just see it. She was real bad, and she goes, in my wrist, I don't think I should do this. So I'm like, absolutely you can. Absolutely you can do this. Come on, it's mind over matter. Break this board. So she goes, okay, and she does her move, and she goes, 1, 2, and doesn't break it, right? And you can just see the look on her face. come on, let's do it again. Let's do it again. She gets all excited. She goes, 1, 2, doesn't break it. And now she's like, I'm done. She's like, I just can't do it. And just this look of disappointment on her face and failure. And we all sat around and we said, no, more. And you might see the video. It's on Facebook page. And I'm like, come on, everybody, let's go. Let's get her involved. And I looked at her, I said, you can do this. It has nothing to do with your arthritis. It has nothing to do with the strength of your body. It has everything to do with your mind and focusing on this breakthrough. And man, she said, 1, 2, and then she went boom, and she went right through that board and immediately burst into tears because it was the mental thought in her head. The arthritis was stronger than her mind. The arthritis was holding her back. Her age might have been holding her back. The fear of the unknown. Remember, uncertainty. She's never broken a board in 70 years being on this planet. So the uncertainty of what happens. The uncertainty is, what if I hit that and my hand shatters? Or what if I don't hit it on the 10th time and everybody thinks I'm a wimp? So your attitude is so important. And we talk about how quickly can you rebound. Does anybody have anything to say about any of these topics?
Yeah, I want to say something. Before I started Isagenix, I never realized how negative and how much of a self-sabotage I could be mental-wise to myself. So I think that having the self-awareness is so important, and always being in that mind frame of bettering yourself. So when you do fall short, that bounce back happens much more quickly when you're in that mindset of wanting to continue to grow and become a better person. So I never was there before I started Isagenix and started doing the self-development, realizing how negative I really was as a person. So
yeah, well, what is failure? What is life without failure? I mean, imagine if we didn't fail at anything, we're just successful at everything. How boring life would be. Whether it be a personal relationship with a boyfriend or girlfriend or a husband. I had a friend that recently went through a bad breakup. And I said to him, well, let me ask you a question. If you never had your heart broken, how would you really know how would you really ever appreciate it? I mean, I love my wife so much. I love Angelique so much because I can vividly remember one time when I was 22 years old, spending a week in church, taking a week off of work, and spending a week. I just woke up every morning because I couldn't sleep. And I sat there crying in the chapel because my heart was broken. And my dad, who never gave me really any advice in my life, told me that advice. He said, if you don't know pain in life, then you don't know joy. So let's take it back to something as simple as that person that called up on you and quit on the first week. And that disappointment, that feeling, and that pain of being disappointed with your Isagenix business. So if you don't know that, how are you really going to celebrate the person who, hits Crystal Manager in their first month? The person who shoots up to director and just gets it and is telling you, hey, I'm doing these Super Saturdays and I'm doing these Timeout Tuesdays and I'm just taking off. How are you ever really going to celebrate that if you don't know that? So it's a constant personal development. And look at all you guys waking up with me this morning. Look at all you guys right here. No matter, your journey could be slow and not everybody moves at the same pace, but you're still moving. You're still here. Anybody else have a similar story?
I have a quote to share.
Go ahead.
That reminds me of when you're talking about how we need certainty. Another entrepreneur friend posted this, and I thought everybody could resonate with it. And it says, if you think being an entrepreneur is risky, try working a job for 40 years and living off of Social Security. So, a lot of people feel like their jobs create certainty, but it's like, not really, if you don't have a plan in place to what you're going to do after your job. So I thought that related pretty well.
Well, yeah, because you have the ability, Judy, right now to reinvent yourself. Wherever you are in this call right now, wherever you are in your life, you have the ability to reinvent yourself. You have the freedom in this country. You have the freedom that God gave you with your own decision-making to reinvent yourself. And the reason people don't is because they want to stay in that emotional home because they're scared. You might need someone to help bring you out of that emotional home. You might need someone to encourage you. You might read a book or just have a friend that says you can do anything and reinvent yourself. Now, it's not going to be easy. Like Liz said earlier, we're creatures of habit. We have this framework that we were in and we've been indoctrinated in for whatever reason. And that's who we are. And the hardest thing to do is break out of that conformity into uncertainty. because uncertainty is where you're scared. But think about it. I use this. What about a haunted house? Okay, let's use this analogy. Haunted house. If someone tells you that you're going into a haunted house, right? You have the ability to be like, you kind of keep your guard up. You ever been to one of those real life haunted houses where real people jump out at you? Well, you know you're going into it. So you kind of have your guard up, right? But what if you go into a house and you don't know it's a haunted house? You don't know somebody's going to surprise you. Then, you know, that uncertainty, what happens? Your adrenaline shoots up, right? Either way, your adrenaline's going to shoot up and you're alive. I mean, it's not necessarily a great thing that any of us would want, but when do you know that you're alive? You know that you're alive in the moments where you experience the most emotion. So let's go back. Have you ever had your heart broken? It sucks, but man, you're certainly operating in a realm of feeling. You got your eyes are watering, your heart's racing, your stomach feels like you're going to throw up. If you guys have ever done anything like zip lining or bungee jumping, or Judy's going on her motorcycle. Why does Judy go on her motorcycle? Because there's a certain adrenaline rush that comes with that. There's a certain feeling of knowing I'm alive. Okay, now let's look at the opposite direction. If you go to your job and you're in a cubicle all day and you come home and you stay inside and you turn on the TV, how alive are you? How many times a day does your heart rate go up and down? How many times a day do you experience any kind of real joy or sadness other than through somebody else's on a TV show? We're watching reality TV to experience somebody else's joy and sadness and risk in life instead of getting out there and doing it ourselves. So one of the things that he talked about is how you can really express things, especially through words, tone, and physiology. And he had a guy get up there and say, "Here I come to save the day," the Mighty Mouse theme. And he says, "First, I just want you to say with words, no tone, no physiology." So the guy gets up there and he goes, "Here I come to save the day." Now think about that. How many of you guys are talking to your prospects? How many of you guys are going through your day talking to people, "Here I come to save the day"? How many of you guys are making your videos on Facebook and you're trying to attract people to you and like, "Here I come to save the day"? Why aren't you joining me? I'm saving your day. Aren't you excited? Listen to my words. How powerful are my words? You're not joining me. You're not pressing like. No. Okay, so then we add tone, right? Tone. "Here I come to save the day." Come on, guys, join me in my quest to be a better person and a better body and have a better income. Here I come to save the day. A little bit better, all right? So the words were 7%. He said they accounted for 7%. Then he said the tone accounts for 38%. But the most important thing is the one thing we have left, and that's the physiology. And that's why when you see people talk and you see the best speakers in life, and even right now, the simple with the hand gesture, motioning to people, talking about a breakthrough, doing things. Why did Rod punch that guy in the arm? Why didn't Rod just say, "Stop picking your nose, man"? Dude, stop picking your nose. You're still picking your nose, and I'm telling you right now not to pick your nose. It's gross. No. Boom. Ow. Stop picking your nose, bro. All of a sudden, the physiology is 55%. My name is David Norrie. I mean, I'm going to be going a little bit nuts, and then I got to bring it down because I don't want people to think I'm crazy. But hey, I would love for you guys to join me today in the morning time. We'll start our day off with intention. We'll all have a kick-ass weekend because the physiology of my body, the tone of my voice, and the words I say all come together. If you've ever been talking to somebody and they go out of what's considered normal now because we all have our own personal space, but you've ever talked to somebody and they put their hand on your shoulder as they talk to you, how does that make you feel? Right? If they put their hand on your shoulder, it might be something that really, you say, "Wait a minute, I'm uncomfortable." But if it's a comforting hand, all of a sudden you're listening to them and they step closer. Mary, what do you have to say? Go ahead, Mary Chandler.
Hi, I wanted to tell you that I'm talking with a girl who recently got a new car, and she posted her car on Facebook. And some of her friends were dogging her out because it was a Chevy truck and it wasn't a Ford truck. So they were like, "Oh, I'd like it a lot better if it was a Ford." And this is what she said. She goes, "Well, I would like a Ford truck too, but I have to take what the bank dictates to me to take." I jumped all over that. because I was like, you're young. You don't have to take that. There's a better way.
Right. So she's taking the freedom of choice away from herself and putting it on somebody else. So what she's doing is she's passing along the blame for not having what she wants in life onto somebody else. It's not my fault that I don't have this. It's somebody else. They're not letting me have that. When you hear it, Mary, it sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
It sounds ridiculous. So if we can put all these things together, and I love what we're going to talk about as we leave, it's the physiology. Some of you guys did my Socially Speaking group, and we did videos, and I said, look, when you're doing the videos and you're sitting there in your car and for some reason you're whispering in your car. You ever notice that when people are doing a video in their car, like, hey, it's me. I'm sitting here and there's my car and I just want to tell you guys this message today. I mean, you're in your car. Nobody can hear you. So why wouldn't you speak with enthusiasm? You know, we never go to a politician. Think about the politicians. I know this is political season. Think about the politicians who absolutely sucked. And I'll go back to this. So Tony Robbins, when he went to his last event, he actually said this. He goes, it's 2000, I think it was 2004. And he goes, I'm at a TED Talk. And Al Gore's there. And he had just lost the election. And Al Gore goes up to me and we're in front of all these people. And they're like, who did you vote for, Tony? And Tony goes, I got to be honest with you, Al. He goes, I didn't vote for you. He goes, it's not that I didn't like your policies or what you had to say. He goes, I just can't vote. You had absolutely no emotion. You had zero passion. And I can't get behind somebody with zero passion and emotion. And that resonated with me because you remember Al Gore? He didn't. There's plenty of brilliant people in this country that have brilliant ideas, whether it be in private sector or public sector or service or preachers, right? Have you ever gone to mass? I was raised Catholic and I used to go to mass and there would be like a 70-year-old Catholic priest up there and he'd just be speaking. And I was like, God bless you for donating your life and devoting your life to the Lord. But I'll tell you what, man, I'm falling asleep and I just can't justify being here just because to simply be here in this seat and say I went to church. You know, if you ever had someone that really moved you, chances are like David Wood, he's funny, he moves around, he'll do things, he'll say things. Rod was like a comedian yesterday. Every point he made, he had people rolling laughing. But when he was done with the point and you got it, you're like, yes. So ask yourselves when you're talking to people, and you're having these conversations, you got to get better. You want to be yourself. You got to realize that you're not going to go from who you are to Rod Hairston like that just because you say, I want to be him. But you model yourself, okay? Watch videos of Tony Robbins. Watch videos of Rod. Go to the events of Isagenix. Watch how people speak. Watch how they talk. You know what? I've gotten so used to talking with my hands and doing things like, I'm going to give you 3 things. First thing, second thing, third thing, simple things like that I don't even think about it. I'll get done with the video and think to myself, did I use hand gestures? And I look back on it like, oh my God, I was doing all these things and I don't even realize it. So what you have to do is model people. You have to be passionate. Guys, the last thing I'm going to say is if you're not passionate about what you're doing, if people can't see it in your voice, if they can't hear it in your words, but more importantly, if they don't feel your physiology doesn't necessarily mean putting your hand on their shoulder, but just the feeling they get, the emotion they get from you. If they can't feel that, then they're not going to resonate with them. And that's why maybe you're stuck in the place you are. So improving on that goes to the next level. Liz, is there anything you want to leave off with there?
Just to tag on to that, David, one thing that was really powerful, he said, Isagenix is emotion. It's emotional buy. We are selling the ability for people to deal with uncertainty. And that was just so huge and so impactful. We're offering a solution to someone who's uncertain if they can lose weight, if they can do better, just this betterment of your life. And for that being, an emotional decision people make when they buy. It's emotion or logic, and Isagenix is an emotional buy. Yeah.
And then they justify with logic. So that's why you have to have an important company behind you. That's why it's so important to have the science and the technology and the fact that this stuff works and the proven results behind you. Because so many people, remember we talked about this, that when people come to you and they've been overweight all their life or they've been tired for the last 10 years, it's an emotional thing for them. That's why when we've done so many times getting to their why and not just saying, I want to lose 10 pounds. Okay, let me show you what you can do. Why do you want to lose 10 pounds? Close your eyes. What does your life look like 15 pounds lighter? I saw my friend Damon yesterday, who I've been telling you guys about, who's almost in the 100-pound club. And And I told you about Damon because Damon is the one who stood outside the men's big and tall store and took a picture and then went inside and told the girl who's been helping him for the last 10 years fit in his big clothes that he's not going to be shopping there anymore and he'll miss her. Okay? That's emotional. That is something that resonates. That's his why. I can walk into Macy's and I can buy the same jeans that my buddy was wearing that I could never find before. I have to find some odd brand that's made just for big and tall guys. I can't wear the cool things that everybody else is wearing. And I'll flip it. When I was a kid, breakdancing was in, right? And everybody had these really cool breakdancing outfits. And remember, what are they called? Parachute pants. Oh my God, everybody had parachute pants. And David Norrie didn't have parachute pants because he was too skinny and too small to find a pair that didn't fit him like hammer pants, right? They weren't supposed to fit like hammer pants back then. They were supposed to be cool and tight parachute pants. And I remember begging my mom, we went to every store and I couldn't find them. So that was an emotional thing, even at 14 years old, is I couldn't get the cool pants that everybody else was wearing. So whether you're big, you're small, or somewhere in between, we want to be able to do those things. Does anybody else have any comments as we leave?
I just wanted to mention I was at the Rod Harrison thing in Calgary a couple of weeks ago, so I feel like I'm there again. You guys obviously got tons out of it, but the one comment he made near the end of the day kind of just blew my mind and I wanted to share it. And what he said was that too many people are spending their whole life searching for their purpose and looking for their purpose. He said, don't do that. He says, spend your life making your purpose, designing your purpose. And I just wanted to bring that up because I've had a couple of conversations just this week with people saying, I don't know my purpose. I don't know if I'm on the right path. And really it's just so true that it's not out there already waiting for us. It's in us to say, this is why I do this every day is for this purpose. And I am that purpose. So just one thought. Like I said, I love hearing all this. I just feel like I'm back in that room. Like it was an amazing, amazing day.
And you're right. It's not a point in life. In other words, you don't reach your purpose. Say, I'm here. It's constantly evolving. And that's why it's our job. Like how many people here feel comfortable saying I have a purpose or I know where I'm going at? It's a constant evolution of where you want to go. And that's why it's so important to be around people. You know, we talk about the community. We talk about the Isagenix, the culture, because it's a culture of people that don't want to have C grades, that don't want to be average. I don't care where you are. Nobody wants to live a C life. Nobody wants to be on their deathbed going, oh my God, I can't believe I have spent my whole life worrying about what's going to happen to me, worrying about succeeding, and I haven't done it, and now I only have one life and I have no second chance. My sister, I always like to use her. She had a dog, she had an alarm system, and she lives in a gated community. And she spent so many nights up not being able to sleep because she was so scared that of a burglar or something going to break in. I'm like, imagine when you're 90 and you look back on your life and you think all the hours and the heartache and the stress that you devoted to something that was not going to happen. What's my sister doing? She's looking for the wall. She's not looking for the opening. She's looking for that wall. And she's going to look back one day and go, oh my God, I worried so much about this for no reason instead of just letting life happen. And when we talk about Rod Harrison, so it's the healthy mind and body. How many people have done the healthy mind and body through Isagenix? Raise your hand. Okay. If you haven't done it, I think it's like $45 and what, you get 30 back if you finish it? It's crazy.
No, I think it's more. You get $5 more.
Yeah. So it's a certain amount of money, but you get most of it back just by finishing it. And then the other part is, Rod told us yesterday, no, Travis told us, Travis, who's the vice president, said people that do the healthy mind and body, their order basket is $15 higher, so they order more product, and their retention is much longer. So what happens is the body, what did he say? So the mind, he says, more important than what the body eats is what the mind eats. This is so important. More important than what the body eats is what the mind eats. He goes, we're kind of selling mental shakes. So we've talked about this before. This is a personal development company that happens to have a great product attached to it, right? I love the shakes. They've made me so much more energetic. They've helped my workouts. They help me stay lean. But guys, what this company has done for my soul, for my mind, for my personality, for my purpose in life, that's where it's at. That's what I want you all to get. And that's why we're here on a Friday morning. That's why we're starting off our Friday with intention. That's the message. If you have to watch this again and take notes and get one or two things, and then go back to the people in your life who you feel can dig into that message and will get something out of it, and work with them. That's it. So have a wonderful day. Does anybody else want anything to say? I don't want to leave anybody out.
Just two more really quick things that happened to me.
Go ahead.
Yesterday, I went to go pick up my son from school, and I thought, man, you know what? I bet you there's going to be an accident over there. Let me go pick up my daughter first. I make a right to go get my son. There was an accident. So what you focus on, you find. That's one. And number two, I know that they talk about this a lot, focusing on your why and letting your why drive you. And it happens to us where we lose track of what our true why is. My why has always been my husband. He's a deputy, and I want him to be home with his family. So I've gone through this thing where he supports me, he doesn't support me. He supports me, he doesn't support me through my Isagenix lifestyle. So this morning he comes home from work and he's upset because something happened at work. And he told me, he goes, if you don't get this Isagenix business off and running, I don't know what's going to happen to me in this career. So that ignited me this morning because he has uncertainty right now. And sometimes the uncertainty is what drives you. When you don't know what's going to happen, it's what fuels you. And that's what's fueling him right now, is what we're doing with this business. So I just wanted to share that because it's been a struggle with my husband. And this morning, his support and his belief in me is that much more. So always go back to your why. It's so important.
Good job. I agree. Also point, I mean, so much of your why is not only you internally, but how you can affect the people. Use that. We all have to have motivation in our day. So use your kids, use your husband, use your friends, your family, your mom, your dad as a reason to achieve. Gus, what did you want to say?
Yeah, well, speaking of the importance of posture and, speaking with emotion and really driving, connecting. Dave, we spoke about this a while ago. And it's so important that you're doing your socially speaking thing to get people doing that, is you got to put yourself in the zone. Like a lot of you talk on the phone. To get that emotion through the phone, you got to put yourself in that mindset and that mind frame before you get going. So you gotta do what it takes to wake you up, to get your mind fired up. Susan Sly, she does her phone calls in her high heels. Even if she's home in her bathrobe, she puts her high heels on because it puts her in the mindset. And her emotion starts to come through in her conversation because she's there. For me, I remember I was talking to Dave, and it was like I throw my hat on. I put my hat on, and I'm in the zone. Kind of like if you guys have ever seen Over the Top, when in the arm wrestling thing, how he gets in the zone, he takes his hat, flips it around back, and now he's ready to go. He's not ready until his hat's on back. So you got to have something that gets you going, whether it's doing a set of squats right before you get on that phone, or running outside in the rain, or laying down on your cold tile floor with your shirt off. These are different things that work for people, but it gets them going. It puts them in that zone to speak with emotion, because people hear your posture through the phone. So make sure you do that, because that tone changes 100%. Smile on the phone. People hear your smile through your phone. They want to know that you're for real, and they can hear it in your voice.
That's right. So we talked about doing your move. So even Travis yesterday says he does a move to get him fired up, to get him in the state. And Rod talked about Tony Robbins. So the most successful, the most lucrative speaker on the planet, Tony Robbins, right? No one makes more money than him. No one's a more successful speaker. And he had these guys that, I think it's Dan Gilbert, is the owner of the Cavaliers, or the owner of the Washington Redskins, I think. And they went back and they saw Tony doing his move, getting himself in the state before the show. And they thought that it's just his shtick, what he tells people to do. But no, but he still does it. So whatever your move is, whatever gets you in that state of mind, if you're doing phone calls and you're sitting there in your chair with your phone up against your ear, you got to get a pair of earbuds, and you got to walk around hands-free. Because when you can close your eyes and walk and think and use your physiology like we talked about, even if you're on the phone, your physiology will come through. Because when I'm here and I don't have to hold the phone up and I can talk and use my hands, it's so much better than anything else. So this is so important for you guys moving forward to become better. Everything is about getting better. You don't have to be better tomorrow, but you just have to be making small improvements each day. So that way next year, you don't turn around and go, I'm in the same spot. You know, I'm still a manager next year. Why am I still a manager? And then you have to ask yourself, you blame, well, I don't have the people around me. Nobody wants to do it in my neighborhood. You know, I don't have the support in my upline. No, it's because you're not growing. Remember this, your business will grow in direct proportion to the amount you're willing to grow yourself. Your business will grow in direct proportion to the amount that you are willing to grow yourself. That means when you go to events, you're present. Okay? That means when you get on calls, you're present. That means you have the ability to focus. I talked to somebody this morning who's going to leave their job and wants to do Isagenix. Okay? Now, we always say it's important that you leave at the right time. So when I left my job to do this, there's always going to be a leap of faith. Okay? But what you're trying to tell yourself is when I look back is all those other things I would have done, I would have not been fulfilled in my life. Now this fits me and what I want to do, and I love it. I wouldn't do any other thing. I said the only job I would ever leave Isagenix for right now is to work at the corporate office, because the corporate staff in this company means that much to me that I would take a pay cut and work at the corporate office to help other people do their job if they needed me. I don't want to do that. But if they needed me, if they said, David, we need somebody for the sake of the company, I would take a pay cut to work for the corporate office because that's how much it means to me. So when you're thinking about it, what do you want? It's there. There's nobody. Go back. This is the last thing I'm going to leave you with. Do yourself a favor. You can look up Isagenix millionaires. I think there's like 172. Go back and look at their faces. None of them are wearing a cape. None of them really, there's maybe a few, but none of them have a six-pack abs. None of them look like Clark Kent, okay? None of them look like Wonder Woman. None of them are supermodels for the most part. Maybe Lori Harder. That's an exception to the rule. But what they are is they're average, everyday people who put their nose to the grindstone and said, here's an opportunity. I'm going to take full advantage of it. I'm going to follow the systems. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel, but I'm going to work my ass off. One of the things that really pisses me off is when I see people make posts saying, from Isagenix saying, I retired. Nobody in Isagenix is retired. All they did is they left their one job to do another one. They're working just as hard, if not harder, in Isagenix. Susan Sly is not retired. She works her tail off, okay? Kathy Savage, not retired, works her tail off. Nobody is retired. This is simply a job that you do that you love. It's not something you do and you kick your feet back and say, I'm with Isagenix now, just give me some money. No, this is a job. And remember, 80% of the people simply are product users. There's 80% of people out there that love our product so much they've never gotten a dime from Isagenix. 20% of the people are doing the business, okay? That's because we have solutions that work and that are effective and that people love. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a great day. Remember, Tuesdays and Friday mornings, we start our day with intentions. I love the fact that more of you guys participated. There's some of you guys that are sitting there and you haven't, and I see you on these calls every Friday. I'm going to start calling you guys out. I'm getting you out of your comfort zones and getting you to talk. So you can either volunteer or you can be called on. It's time to get out of our comfort zones. Have an awesome weekend. I did record this. I won't typically record it, so don't get used to it, but I did record this one, okay? And I'll post it if you want to share with anybody. Peace.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.